Warframe is a very fast game. Okay, maybe not that fast, but it is a game that you spend a lot of time parkouring and rushing through levels as fast as possible to maximize the amount of time you spent on missions, or rather lower the amount of time you spend on missions in order to get rewards as quickly as possible. And as a result, you'll often end up missing a lot of the amazing art that the team works on, whether it be because you are going so fast or your screen is littered with effects, making it almost impossible to see. Well, with that in mind, today I thought it would be fun to take a look at the various skyboxes as well as vistas in some of the major locations that you can visit. Places you won't be seeing on this are mostly going to be story locations or locations that are very exclusive. We are mostly going to be focusing on the major locations that the player can visit and go to frequently. And here will be our ranking system. Obviously, the top tier being Klim approved. Second after that, Oricon Invasion Quality Test. I think you can get a gleam idea of what that means. And then we have B tier. And then after that, we have Stuck Talking to Arthur Forever in Kim tier. What fate is worse than that, you say? Well, that would be Grenier Galleon janitorial duties. So let's get started on this list right away. First, we are heading over to Lua, which has some great little vistas that we can see off in the distance, as well as a very contradictory skybox that we can see. Focusing on the skybox itself, we can see Earth in the back, which looks quite well done. But if you go into other tiles within the Lua tile set, you'll notice the Earth is spinning very rapidly all of a sudden. As to why it's spinning so fast, I'm not entirely sure, and it's just sort of inconsistent as a whole. It's a very odd choice, but despite that, it still has quite the nice view that you can see quite often due to how often you end up going into these exterior areas within Lua. I would say this one is fairly good overall, and given its location, I think it's only fair that we make it Oricon approved tier. Now let's go and make our way over to Mars. This one I found very fun in its theming here. In the various backdrops within this location, we find many ruins skewed all over the place, as if to imply that living here long ago, and given the Warframe lore, there very likely was. These ruins can be seen through the majority of the tiles, giving you always like a little peek into these various ruins where some civilization once lived. I love how the Grenier have slowly overtaken it and adapted their own building structures onto them in order to excavate all the various things they come here for. There's just something so fun about seeing this mix of metal machinery attached to these ancient stone buildings carved into the side of the mountains. And this one too, I would say, is pretty great. I'm sure the Oricon would love this one, but maybe not as impressive for Klim. We don't want to be too eager this early into the video. Let's make our way over to Eris next, a planet rampant with the infested, barely alive itself, scattered across its own skies, lies strewn these various infested tendrils and webbings all over the place, infecting any ship that even dares to come near. And very much so, every ship that we can land on in the perimeter of Eris is indeed completely derelict and taken over by the infested. It really is just such a beautiful sight to see planet torn apart by its own infestation. Almost reminds me of Dead Space in its own weird way. And if you can get the right tiles to spawn, you can definitely get some great views of the entire skybox. Let's see. Well, this one is very beautiful to look at. It's also kind of limited because you can't really land on the planets, and you really need to hope those windows spawn on the derelict ships to even get a glimpse of it. But we'll keep it in B tier, just for its looks alone. Now, this one's a bit of a triple whammy, as we will be heading to Neptune, Pluto, and Venus all in one trip. That's because all of these planets, as far as I could tell, all share this snowy corpus tile set. And as a result, it's all the same tile set, albeit a very beautiful one, and one I have a slight bias to as I quite enjoy cold weather. In here we can see a derelict Orican structure off in the distance being excavated and used by the Corpus. And even if you zoom in on the lower area, you can see this rather well-made little river crossing around with various pipes and industrial things, likely draining off excess resources that they no longer need. I like how they did the visual for the river here too, as it makes it feel very believable despite a lot of these backgrounds that we will be seeing mostly just being giant JPEGs in the sky. And in order to make them more believable, they usually add these little effects that you see here, like this glowing blue thing and the river we just saw earlier. Something about this one just tells a great story about things that are going on with the Corpus in these locations, and not just a series of mountains in the back, showing you that there's more beyond what you're traveling in, and that's something that is always nice to see. As for rankings though, I'm gonna have to let my bias not hit me on this one. And they're going straight to R for jail for reusing it so many times. You know it. You live on it. Well, you're trying your best to live on it. That's right. We are going to Earth next. Earth now being in a way different state than we knew it in our present day, has mostly become overgrown by nature's bounty, and as a result now hosts many large forests and virtually endless flora in any which direction. In these tile sets as well, we get to see these massive trees everywhere in the background, which really help add to the sense of scale for how much the flora has overtaken the planet. And in the distance, we get this rather well done JPEG again, where they have these river effects placed on these to make it seem like it's a 3D object in the distance. And when in reality, it's just flat back there. Even when we are just standing here looking at it, it's really hard to notice without really getting a close look to where you can see the sort of jagged edges of the image from where they cropped it and the lack of dynamic shadowing affecting them. That being said, it's really hard to tell, and I think it looks fantastic. They even do this thing, which you'll see in some other ones as well, where they have various vehicles or birds or other things fly by them to make them have even more depth. I almost wish we would get a tile set where we do go into these larger treed areas and sort of jungle gym our way around the various locations. I think this will be lovely for the Orican's collection. So let's add another one. All right, let's head on over to, hey, the arrow's still pointing at Earth. We're going to Earth again? To the plains of Eidolon. Over here, and specifically at night is my preference. We get to see the night sky covered in millions of stars due to the lack of light pollution clouding it. And we also get a nice view of Lua from the distance, the place we first visited, which makes for a great sight. And when you first come here, can leave a bit of a mystery when you first see it. Along with this, we also get some rather large creatures off in the distance. While the moon is very nice, it's not really adding much more than that, even with the Eidolons running amok. So I think it will fit nicely in B tier. Now we're heading over to, and please try to be mature about this, Uranus. Let's go right in to the waters of Uranus. And here we get to see some nice skyboxes underwater, which is quite unique for the series. Seen in the distance, you can see other structures like the one the player is participating in. Again, giving that sense that there is still more places going on. Maybe there are other Tenno and those other buildings. It's hard to say exactly what's going on in all those, and that's what's great about visual storytelling in games like these. Also, there's a shark. What else is there to say? A giant shark. Now, this one I think is a B tier, but water, so we're bumping it up. The Orican can have this one. Next up, we are heading to the Void. Or we would be if I was able to find exterior locations in the Void. As far as I can tell, there are no exterior locations in the Void. Though I guess if there were any, it would just be a bluish whitish hue everywhere and not make for the most pleasant vista even if we could see it. As such, we are assigning our first Grineer janitorial duties. Sorry, Void. Let's go make our way over to Ceres. And if you love rain, then you probably shouldn't come here because this rain's a little more dangerous. The downpour here is full of very poisonous gases and chemicals. Nothing that you want to go splash about in. Despite that, it makes for an extraordinary view with the intense rain coming down. It makes everything very dizzying and foggy in the distance with all the kind of mist spreading about from so much rain falling. We get this nice distant view of various structures that are mostly silhouetted, but are lit up by the various lights about them. This place really captures its own visage and stands out quite well amongst all the other ones we've been seeing so far. Even in some areas, which are a little harder to see, we get these high contrasting reds spread about from where they are breaking down various debris in their factories. I find this one quite impressive. But is it Klim approved? I think I still have to lean on this one being part of the Oricans collection. Though it was a fairly close pick for me on Klim. Let's call this one the honorary Klim pick. Let's go take a quick land on Saturn, is what I would like to say, though unfortunately we are not able to, and are instead carried on to the various Grineer vessels patrolling the space around it. Despite that, I thought it was still worth mentioning, because in the small little windows that you can see in various locations, you can see a mass amount of spacecraft taking routes to various locations. Perhaps they're carrying cargo to and from places, or it could be even a battalion of some sorts. It's hard to say with them so far away, but this little detail that you can easily miss if you aren't looking out for these tiny porthole windows is remarkable in itself. I recommend going and taking a peek at these when you have the chance. Despite that, due to its limited viewability, we're gonna have to throw it in with Arthur. Up next, we are heading back to school to head over to the Zariman. And this vein is putting the Void to shame. That is indeed for sure, as we now get to see our skybox for the Void, albeit through the Zariman's view ship. And it is jaw-dropping, to say the least. Seeing all this Void material strewn about in space is kind of terrifying in its own way. It almost makes you wonder what would happen if you were to reach out to this and did not have the safety of being a Tenno or vesseling a Warframe. We even get a lot of rooms to view the outside of the ship, and the Void portal is partway lodged into, as well as some gardened areas that we can also view most of the exterior of the ship from. Just a fantastic place to enjoy viewing the Void, and it's one I recommend you stop to take a look at, as it's very easy to find in mostly any of the Zariman tile set. And as such, I think we have to give our first Klim approved skybox / Vista, really putting the Void to shame with theirs. Now for definitely one of my favorites, Deimos. Over here in the open world sector, we get to go up on our archwing and see this from the highest point possible. This place is astounding in its detail. All the flesh of the infested, twisted and gnarled, even some of it in the distance animated. On top of that, we get Phos and Vom lurking in the background, depending on the cycle. So much of the background also has these animated sections like we saw on Earth, and they really help add to the believability of the location. Not only that, we get to see other planets in the distance. Even the cloudscape is animated on top of that. There's just so many details to see when looking in the background of Deimos, and is probably one of their best works they've done. I guess the environment team had a lot of free time on their hand for this one. I figured since we are here, we might as well play out the Voss and Foam transition. So please enjoy this. There's no doubt this is Klim approved. Let's just move it along, shall we? Let's head on to the underside of Deimos in Albrecht's Laboratories. This is another astounding one, and that should be no surprise given next to Deimos. In the underbelly of Deimos, we get to see the laboratories hanging from the ceiling. It is honestly amazing looking to see this in the distance and realize that all the structures we're on are kind of just floating there, attached to the ceiling. And a lot of them, if you look off in the distance, aren't even attached to the ceiling, but are just floating there by this immense amount of energy pulsating down into the cloudscape below us. It's cool to see the exterior of the structures that we go inside in many of these locations, the vistas and skyboxes that we see in various locations. These ones are just really bizarre too, as if you look closely at some of them, it almost looks like dust is getting sucked up or even falling down, but the opposite direction. So it's almost really hard to tell if we are upside down or if these structures themselves are simply getting piled into Deimos due to their instability. I think it should come as no surprise. This one is Klim approved. Unfortunately, you hate to see it, we are entering another chopping block with both Sedna and Mercury. These are both planets that use Grineer ships as their main locations to land in. And as such, we're gonna add them to janitorial services. Good luck. Now for another fantastic... Wait, where'd it go? Oh, that's right. It's over here right now. The Kuva Fortress. The massive moving fortress. This place has so much gravitational pull that it has its own asteroid belt surrounding it. And the skybox here is outstanding for what is really just an asteroid belt. But just seeing it moving the way it is quite jolting to see. And there's quite a few different spots on the Kuva Fortress tile set that you'll be able to get a glimpse at it. But I recommend coming to this location at the end of one of the missions, where you get to see a large portion of this asteroid field that the Kuva Fortress is traversing. What more is there to say? It's a massive asteroid belt surrounding a giant fortress moving through the solar system. The only thing that could have made this better is if you could see the planet that it was orbiting based on its current location. Though sadly, there is no such thing. Despite that, my love for the Kuva allows this one to be Klim approved. Now let's take a little jump into the past. We're heading to Höllvania, just in time for the winter season, which is my favorite one to see this place. And with that, we also get to see the structures in the background covered in snow as well. In the back here, we get to see various buildings and even an entire amusement park in the distance covered in various infested flesh. It almost makes me wish we could go there. Maybe in some future update if they decide to take us back here. I was almost considering this one Klim approved just for its weather conditions alone, but this is more about vistas and skyboxes than it is the changing weathers. And as such, we're gonna hand this one over to the Oregon. They probably want it anyway. Now we're heading over to Vallis on Venus. If you missed my previous Warframe video, we took a walk along around here, so I recommend checking that out if you're interested in hearing me discuss some of my thoughts about the game as a whole. The vistas and skyboxes we can see in Vallis are ones I appreciate deeply, as I quite enjoy the sentient warships destroyed in the background, as entering these sentient warships is probably the most fun part about doing the Proxima missions. You can more or less be on any one side of Vallis and get a nice vista of the entire area. So I recommend heading to one side and taking a nice look at everything. Despite all this, there's not really much to see, just kind of like the plains of Eidolon. Mostly just mountains, and as such, I think it will fit nicely next to Plains of Eidolon in B tier Phobos. Unfortunately, not too much to see here. We're on a Corpus ship in the various Phobos locations. I still thought it was worth mentioning though, because we get this nice view of a few galaxies in the distance, and I thought they were rather pretty, so I figured I'd show them regardless. Instead of sending Phobos to the garbage can, we will be gentle and let them suffer with Arthur. But this was cutting it close for sure. Now for another chilly location, Europa, and this one is a lot more breathtaking than the previous cold skybox we saw before. This one just has so many different things going on, from these various pillar towers in the distance, the sunset or maybe sunrise of glaring across the open icy fields, the derelict ships crash down, the Corpus and the Grenier fighting in the sky, and we're not done, there's still more. In the distance, we can see a rather large planet. I think it's rather obvious which one this one is. And on top of all that, we even have an aurora that we can see in certain locations. The only downside is it's rather hard to get this to spawn. But when you do, most of the areas in this location are rather open, so it can be quite easy to enjoy it from all sorts of different angles. So just for how busy it is and how every time you look up, you're probably gonna be looking at something new. Clem deserves this one for sure. Jupiter is wrought with gaseous storms of a very deadly chemical, and not one you would want to breathe in anytime soon. Despite that, we get these breathtaking storms clouding the various surfaces or lack thereof of this gas giant. There's just so much detail packed into the backgrounds of Jupiter, and due to how the interiors of this tile set are designed, you're always going to see him every tile or every other tile that you enter. And many of these show them utilizing these gases here and not just living within the environment, which I love, that we get to see them interacting with the background, and the planet is not just a set dressing like we see with many of the other planets. In various places, you can see them harvesting the gases to use for all manner of technologies. And as such, Clem approved. Let us take a dip into the mines of the past to go visit the Perita Moon. I'm not sure what you expected. This is a battleground taking place on a moon. So there's not really much to see off in the distance, despite how chaotic the battles and surface can be. You will only find in the distance craters and mountains and cliffs. And while they look very nice, they aren't anything compared to what we've seen so far. As such, I'm sorry, little moon, but you're going to the trash can. Now for one more trip into foreign locations, we are heading into Duviri. And here I'm only going to show one of the many emotions of the skybox that you get to see here, as I would very much not like to spoil this too much for anyone who has already spoiled themselves to death watching this video. Within Duviri, it cycles through various emotions, completely changing the skybox in what is happening in it, as well as the colorscape. And off in the distance, you can see the Zariman piercing through. The emotion I chose here is honestly my favorite, as it blends in even more with the Zariman, creating this amazing blue scape despite us being in direct proximity to a blackened sky due to the stars. Duviri really has a lot of beautiful skies to look at, so I recommend coming here and checking out every single emotion yourself to experience it firsthand rather than me showing you on a video. And with that final one, another one for Clem. And here is the final list. Thank you for watching this video with me. I'm sure there's a lot of skyboxes that I may have missed due to the RNG of trying to make these tiles spawn. There's ones that I might have never seen despite how many hours I have in this game. As well as this, there's also the story ones, which there are quite a lot of unique ones in there to see that I recommend you go check out and take a second look if you haven't before already. And that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you for watching. Up here, another video. Over here, another video. Down here, subscribe. Thank you to my members, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.